how do you balance that stress as an entrepreneur? How do you make sure that you're not burning out? How do you make sure that you set a limit for the time you spend on your venture, but you also need to spend time with, your family, your friends? How do you do that?
So I'm gonna say, first and foremost, I'm not the best example. I've learned and now I'm doing it better. But I'm gonna give a shout out to DemiTool, because I feel like DemiTool has that product that could actually help entrepreneurs. And let's be real, all entrepreneurs struggle with this. And even though we get over the hurdle, there's still part of our DNA that wants to just work, 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 and we end up burning out and not having a great balance. But uh, because for my venture, what happened is I was so much, I mean, you have to make your customers happy. You have to please your customers. So that's 24/7. You're dedicated to customers, right? So
Yeah.
for me, that place of balance came, it came to when, it's so tough to say. It came in several ways. It came when I started teaching at St. Louis U, which I used to teach at before, because it showed that I was more well-rounded. I began to find out more about myself. I stopped living in my venture and started living as an entrepreneur, right? Meaning that I'm still an educator as an entrepreneur. I still have mentorship. I can mentor the next generation, right? And knowing that I have to see these future entrepreneurs and I have to tell them balance. And here I am teaching them about balance. So if I'm teaching it, it reminds me that I need balance, right? So I'll say probably that's when it came. Of course, it also came, the more revenue stream was higher, there was less, less demand of my work, things like that, of course, those logistics. But it really came the more I started talking with the younger generation, next entrepreneurs, and making sure they don't fall in the places I felt, the failures I had through. So like you, right? You've helped me a lot in like just chatting about it. Like we talked about it when you're at WashU, we talked about it. I was like, hey, I need this tool. I want this tool. Like I still struggle with it. Like it's a real thing. It's part of our nature as entrepreneurs. We don't know when to stop, but it's really important. And I feel like DemiTool is going to help so much entrepreneurs. Beyond that, there's people that's built in this way too. You just help us balance, because actually when you're able to balance, more productivity happens. So we're not actually being as productive. We think we are, but we're not really that productive. So there's very importance in that balance, because it creates that productivity for our venture, for our home life, for all that we're engaged in. So DemiTool is the next big thing. It seems small, but it's actually a great thing that we all need in humans. We all need it. And I feel like it's going to help us, because we need that product to come alongside us and say, hey, what are you doing?
Yep. There's two internal parts of me that really relate to DemiTool's mission, which at the end of the day is balance. There's if it's just one word, it's balance. And so the logical mathy side of me really appreciates the fact that there's only 24 hours. You can't have more, you can't have less. Therefore, approximately 8 of those are sleeping, approximately 8 of those are working, and then 8 others of the rest of life, which is hang out with your friends, let's go grab a meal, let's go play some sports. From our perspective, it's just a really clear, if you don't know how you're spending your time, then you don't know yourself. And especially if you're in a situation where you're high pressure, you're working a lot, as you mentioned, particularly with entrepreneurs, of course, then it's still on this like mathy logical side. One of the clear concepts is optimum doesn't mean max, for example. So working the most hours doesn't mean the most productivity. And so that said, the other side of me, the like emotional, the friend part of me, the like family member, that side of me also wants to breathe and exist. And there are times where that part of me was minimized, where like school just keeps going and we're working on this venture and all that good stuff. However, even in those moments, or I would say even more so during those moments, I had to make time for that part of Marlon to exist. Okay, we've been working so many hours, so many classes, so many homework assignments. Let's go grab a drink. Let's go get some food. Let's go just sit in the couch and watch a movie.
Yeah.
And so combining the two together, just being able to see it on the screen and say, oh, I need to sleep a little bit more, which was my big problem and still continues to be one of my problems. And as you mentioned, really the hard limit of not too much, because then, you know, you do become less productive, but also the like lower limit of get enough sleep, get enough friends, get enough family. Yes.
No, you are so spot on, Marlon, with all those things, because that's what makes you the best entrepreneur. That's what makes you the best person. Those are really the driving point, because as you know, if those things aren't healthy, then all what really matters, right? We see Steve Jobs,
Yeah.
what he says. He says at the end, he wished would have spent more time with his family. He achieved so many great things, right? But that balance, that drive, which is such a great thing. Not saying that drive is not bad, because that drive is what makes us successful. But there's a
Yep.
balance, and I'm very thankful someone like you addressed it at such a young age, and then you're building that product on DemiTool to actually help others, those that are older than you and those that are going to come after you too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's it's one of those things where you mentioned that we figured this out or doing it earlier. It's ridiculous just how much we live in a society that just pushes us to extremes. So
Yeah.
be it you're working two jobs, you're working a job and going to school, you're, you know, constantly bombarded by social media, your phone is buzzing, your like screens are always on. And that's where, from a technical component, there are some amazing things that we can take away and like put into DemiTool, like make sure that your reminders asking you to rate your events so that, you know, how was this interaction? So later today in my DemiTool, I'll say, you know, this call with Cyril, the really big takeaway, not only from the call itself, was just the like the positive energy that you're bringing. And so
Yeah.
then in the future, when I look back at this moment, I can say, oh, you know what? Like one of the big advantages from this call in particular was I need to be talking to entrepreneurs face to face more and more, because I too enjoy this energy and I too wish that I could be at like startup week or just in person with people. Okay, so then like now I can make a little bit more, I can make a positive change in my life simply because I wrote it down, I just took some notes, I said to myself, this made my life a little better. Okay, perfect. Like, yes, let's do more of that.
Spot on, spot on. No, that's right. I mean, I take this as a lesson to learn, right? About reminding myself of the balance, right? This is the weekend, right? I have, because once Monday starts, the grind starts back.
Yep.
It's the weekend. What am I going to do with my weekend, right? We always start our team meetings by, hey, what was kind of the exciting thing that you did over the weekend? Like, what was it, right? So talking about beyond work life, beyond entrepreneurship, what are you doing with yourself? How are you making yourself a holistic? We're holistic people, and we need to have that great balance. So I love what you stated.
Yeah,